Welcome to the show. If you've been following me on LivePerson, that's the stock in the background, you already know about the precision in price that we work with here. I called the LivePerson move from 55 cents to 179 to the penny top and bottom. When we dropped to 76 cents, I nailed it to the penny from the top. We rode it back up to $2.09, having aimed for $2.10. So off by 1 penny. And when I warned about the break of 170, I said it would go to 86 cents, which we hit to the penny. And since then, we're already up 30% from those post-earning blues. If you traded along with me from the start, long, short, then long again, you'd be up over 2,800%. So you'd have been able to turn $1,000 into $29,000. And you could see LivePerson boost up again. More on that later. But this channel isn't just about one ticker, and that's a big lesson for some of the traders in Gamestop who only followed me for that one ticker. Didn't realize that actually the key to their economic future lay here in trade spotting. If you thought it lay in a golden age for America, I've got news for you. It's fucked. It's fucked, and so are you if that's where your hopes and dreams live. Because the move in LivePerson is happening against the backdrop of a market that's teetering on the edge of extreme volatility. US dollar index there in the background. DXY down 6% from January. That's the whole US dollar there, down 6%. Not just one stock or one thing. Consumer sentiment just hit its lowest level in nearly 2.5 years. Inflation, that's going back up again. Analysts are warning about sharp re-rating lower of US assets. So you're fucked there, thanks to tariff chaos coming in from the new administration. So you're really absolutely fucked. And the truth is, as much as I love my audience, America has been asking for it. OECD just revised UK growth estimates down by a full 3 percentage points, so I'm not doing too much better over here ourselves, you know. Tensions rising in Ukraine. Things aren't particularly fantastic anywhere. Trump's meeting Putin tomorrow on a telephone call. Markets are on edge because who the fuck knows what he's going to say. Even Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is warning that there is no guarantees the US will avoid a recession. Wow, brilliant messaging there. And yet, amid all this uncertainty, trade spotting, who calls the most ridiculous moves, there's back in April, right? April 2024, we talked about entry in at around 77. Obviously, this was before the split, and there it is at the move for 128. Clearly, it went higher, up to 153, but we talked about that, and we had lots of other moves. And if you're in this from when we first talked about it back here in March 2023, entered in at around $25, which was pretty darn good. So you've made a lot of money there. But actually, before then, we talked about it in March 2021 in at around $14. So you'd have been very, very rich. But then actually, we talked about it before then in at around $3 in January 19. So there's an awful 2019. So that's an awful lot of money there. An awful lot of money from being following along with the trade spot and Rocky Outcrop community. You'd have made absolute bucket loads of money. And we've been talking about that since the start of the channel, so an awful lot of money. We've been talking about it recently here on Discord. There's a 15-minute chart. You're now latest entry at 105. The target was 125. Price made it to 123 and change, right? So still above a 200 period moving average on that 15-minute post-market pricing. So it's not like it's just the one and done, right? It's always and all the time and over and over and over. So amid all that uncertainty, NVIDIA, they've got their future being revealed to all of us at GTC, new Blackwell Ultra chip on their Rubin platform, and the Fiera Rubin super chip, which is they'll tell you AI on steroids, which is exactly what AI needs. You know, I was thinking about it earlier on. I was like, what is it that AI needs? I was like, steroids? Steroids. Every male, you know, they're obsessed with such a narrow fucking focus right now that it's destroying democracy in America, which is already suffering from a chronic deficit of your vitamin democracy. Now it's, let's be honest, it's fucked and it's your fault. And I don't want it affecting the rest of the fucking world. I certainly don't want it affecting the audience here and your economic abilities to make the world better. You know, on the bright side, it's getting slightly cheaper. So as long as you can protect yourself. Yep, and the Rubin platform and the Vieira Rubin superchip, they're certainly going to do that, right? So that narrow focus, it seems to slip into every part of your culture. Now, that famous YouTuber, Trades, who gave up his career as a YouTube bucket, a big massive YouTube bucket where everyone could throw their money and he would set it on fire with the worst trades in the universe. He graduated from that job, which we had infinite sympathy and empathy and tried to bring him around to the bright side, but despite using our catchphrase, which demonstrated he'd obviously picked up on the messaging we were trying to put across to him, he neglected to include our risk management, so completely set everybody, including his own money, all on fire. Then graduated from that to go off and take steroids. And yeah, so that's essentially what AI needs to do, right? All that white noise that it was filled with shite before, what it needs to now to add to that lack of substance is steroids and a gym body. That's what AI chronically lacks, and it is so obvious to everybody in America because you guys have got the insight there, you know. And so, you know, and I think, you know, those recent shenanigans with Andrew Tate thinking he found an escape to paradise, that demonstrates what a lot of people are probably thinking right now, making things a lot worse, you know, that getting increasingly diluting the effective intellectual people over there on the new country. But we've managed to transition here. We're on AI on steroids. Huang, he's been making waves. Practical quantum computing is 15 to 30 years away. Boom. But actually, right, that's a lot. 15 to 30 years, right? Nobody serious in business talks about anything that happens over 5 years. So what you could say is, let's call it 5 to 10 years, right? Anything over that, you're just talking nonsense. Anyway, if you've seen the value I've delivered in this show and you're not yet offended by the frank nature of what it looks like from outside, you know, this is me talking about Spies managed to do a little bit of a reaction, right? It did come down, test these lows, done a little bit of a reaction. We managed to look to those lows. We managed to take a cover here with this Microsoft. That was covering our Microsoft long, that position. Also allowed us to position ourselves for this NVIDIA trade so that we could be here ahead of their big unveiling. You know, if you're following along with me, trust me, I've got you covered. And we've got all of that, right? So that was all covering this low in SPY. But if you're looking at things like, for example, the British pound is absolutely flying up against the euro, up against the dollar. And Germany, they're borrowing something stupid like 500 billion. That's going to go shitloads of it into Rheinmetall. It's going to be really, really, really easy for people in Europe to make money over the next wee while because their capital won't be getting diluted. The inflation that's going on in America won't be so bad over here. And obviously, the assets themselves are appreciating because they don't have such a tough business environment, which means there's going to be really big gains. And that's going to then be exponential because all the money will come over from America, which has already started happening. So corporate bonds in America, yield on them is getting higher, which means it's getting harder to pay that money back. That's happening regardless of what happens to the base rate with your Federal Reserve. That's the cost of borrowing money for corporations. Those that are in the most extreme difficulties are paying through the goddamn nose already. And then because Europe's doing everything they are doing, they're launching loads of bonds to raise all this money and they're going to pay it back and the market believes them. So they're giving it to them dead cheap. And all the liquidity that was going to corporate America is now going to a safe, actual, literal area where there'll be literal growth. And that's going to help that money, and that money follows money. So that cycle's going to accelerate. So there are only a few companies in America that you can look to, and those are ones that have got extremely deep value, or those that are going to lead the pack for everybody else chucking their money in. And NVIDIA, that's a huge one for people chucking their money in. So look into the top side, 24 hours, we'll keep it on the extend EMA-thon, and you can see that 200 period moving average. Turn off the drawing so you can actually see things going on here. 200 period moving average, 50 simple meeting it. This is daily, right? You know, got extended hours, 24 or whatnot, and it's a little bit different. But there's the 50 simple approaching the 200 period moving average. That's a potential death cross. Price coming up to test it. If it manages to break back above it, and you've got a really great trade, then down here you've got Class B divergence, price action coming up to test the death cross, escape to the top side, click on your basket, right? That sounds very good. And it's tough environment, right? Tough environment. So, you know, pay attention. Tough environment. There's Dixie. You can see there's flashes below at 196 and then one down at 92. At which point, right, that's an absolutely rank formation. You know what that would be like if it got down there, right? You'd actually be looking at it potentially coming down. And that's just like the death of America. That's what you'd be talking about back there. Now, we talked about this back in 2022. The move to the top side, the broadened information here. And this, a right angled broadened information like this, is absolutely awful. It's awful. You can only get it slightly worse if this was slightly more horizontal. But it doesn't really need to be, because it can start, you know, the next move down is absolutely rank. That doesn't have to be as bad as that, but, you know, it's going to be. Anyway, there's the flashes, and it gets worse because you saw me go through time frames. So, anyway, LivePerson, a little bit of a arc where it's got its own opportunity here. 4 hour 50 simple through the 200 period moving average. You want to defeat that. We're talking about it with banana for each on the show. If you get back up 50% retracement back above that, come in around test there around 125. But that's not going to really be cutting the mustard for a move that's come from these lows, filled a gap and going back up with a higher low, is it? That would be silly. It's going to go up and look for resistance. Prior monthly high comes in here around 146, 147. And that's where the penny pinching swing traders will be looking to take some profit. God, Dan Gory is like, right? You should be up 2,811%, in which case we should be hitting these goals. We should be hitting these goals on the chat, but I see we've got none. We've not got any yet. Oh my God, folks. Not got a single goal yet. What about over here? XD tipped 690, legend. XD, you're a total legend. Thanks very much. Nobody else quite cut the mustard. Let's see if we can do better later in the week, and we might get more sections on the live show, you know, like after this bit, which unfortunately we're not going to have because we don't have any supporters anymore. Oh.